So you have control, you are the host, and I'll jump back on when I get ready. Thank you both.
Thank you. There we go. Okay. Wait, I need to share my screen, right? Yes. All right. Okay, here we go. Well, good morning. So I, again, I'm Sam Almazara. I'm one of the pre and post award team leads in our group. And today, this morning, I'm going to be talking with you about RPPRs. So those are the annual progress reports that we submit for NIH grants. And just as a brief overview of what we'll be talking about. So we'll talk a bit about ERA Commons. That's the system that we use to submit our PPRs. I guess first, can I just get a sense? Do you have experience with our PPRs?
Yeah, but my colleague doesn't know. I go through, I write some parts, but she's one that does.
Right. So you're a PI, so you would write the science, and he would help with the admin parts of it. Okay, great. So you're familiar with Commons,
Yeah.
And what the process looks like. Okay, so I'm going to talk through, and this is how we do it in our group, who's responsible for which sections of the RPPR, and then what information you're going to need to be able to complete your pieces, so my pieces. I'll go into depth about the participants tab of the RPPR, which is section D, and that includes the all personnel report and uploading other support pages for key personnel and providing any updates on personnel on the project. I will also talk about the section G, which is the special reporting requirements section, which there's a new requirement that all key personnel provide a certification statement that they are not involved in a malign foreign talent recruitment program. So I'll talk about that. Updating human subjects enrollment numbers in ASSIST, providing an estimated unobligated balance. And then I will talk a bit about routing for submission and that whole process of once you're ready, once it's prepared, what do you do? So who's responsible for what? So from our perspective, the PI is responsible for section B, which is the accomplishments, section C, which is the products, section E, impacts, F, changes, and then they are responsible for updating the human subject study record in ASSIST. On our side, the research administrator is responsible for section A, the cover page, which is really just adding in your signing official and your authorized official. There's not much to do on that page. Section D is the participants. So that requires a good deal of work on our side. And then section G, special reporting requirements. And then if it's required, section H for the budget. And this ties into what we talked about on Tuesday, if it's a SNAP or a non-SNAP award. So if it's a SNAP award, there's no budget requirement. Non-SNAP, you will have to provide a detailed budget and justification as part of the RPPR. So when you're getting started in Commons, the PI first is going to need to delegate access to you so that you are able to go in and edit the report. And I have a cheat sheet on how to delegate access, so I can share that later. They should log into Commons and initiate the RPPR so that you as the administrator could begin working within the report. If they've delegated access to you, then you can actually initiate it yourself if you're comfortable with doing that. And then the PI is okay with you doing that as well. So you're going to need to collect the following information to be able to do your part as the administrator for the RPPR. So putting together the all personnel report, which if there are sub-awardees on your award, you'll also need their all personnel report. So you'll need to include anyone who's worked at least one calendar month on the project. And the all personnel report is kind of, it's funny to think about because you're reporting on the current budget period, which hasn't ended yet. So you need to report on how many calendar months you expect someone to have worked in the budget year that you're in when it ends, right? So if I'm working on some right now that are due March 15th, the budget period ends April 30th. So I need to, project out what I think they're going to charge to the grant in March and April to calculate how many calendar months they're working on the project in the year. So you'll need to collect that. You'll need to put together a projection to estimate your carryover amount and obtain any anticipated carryover from any sub-awardees. Um, we typically, so we typically will put together a draft budget, even if it's a SNAP award, just to have a sense of how much, what we can include, what works and what doesn't work. Because a lot of times at proposal, we say one amount and then NIH cuts it. And so it's a good practice to start to think about what we can afford in the next year and what we might need to cut. But if it's a SNAP award, we don't need a final, beautiful, totally balanced budget at this period. If it's a non-SNAP, then you will need a nice, balanced final budget for inclusion in the RPPR. And if there are sub-awardees, you'll need their budgets as well. We need any IRB approval letters, and that's for internal purposes, but we need those to make sure that everything's in place for human subjects. We always put in the ENOA for the most recent budget period. And then a budget justification if the budget is required as part of the RPPR, and then any other support documents. And again, all of this, I know over and over, but if you have sub awards, you need all of these pieces from the subs as well. Okay, so section D is the participants section. So section D1 is what individuals have worked on the project, and you're providing a list of participants. So this section actually has changed since January 25th, since the rollout of, and it's not a requirement yet, as Malika said the other day, but since the rollout of the comment forms and other support, because now, before we would get our PIs to sign their other support in DocuSign, and then we would flatten them. So you would just basically remove like the digital certification part of it. We would have that piece, but then to combine them all into one combined PDF to upload as one single attachment, you have to flatten it. You can no longer flatten because they require that digital certification from Science CV. They want to see that metadata that it comes into the form. And so we can't combine them all into one file. So now each person, if they're key, will have to attach separately their other support page in the all personnel report. So I can show you what that looks like. It looks a little bit different now. But we're reporting on anyone who's worked at least one calendar month in the current budget period. And so for each person who's worked at least one calendar month, we're going to provide their name, their role on the project, and their calendar months worked on the project. If they are senior key personnel, a postdoc, or a graduate student, we also need a Commons ID for them. So if they're a postdoc and a graduate student, they may not have one, so one will need to be created for the progress report, or you'll have an error and you won't be able to submit. So I'll show you real quick what that looks like in the system now. Okay, so I'm in Commons, I'm routing to RPPR, and I'm just going to pull up one of the ones that I'm working on right now. So the participants tab. So this is what it looks like now. So each participant is going to have their own little block. And so to edit that person, you click the three dots, you click edit, and then you can add their Commons ID. You put the Commons ID, then you hit the populate from profile button, and then that's going to pull in all of their information. Yeah, and so if they have an ORCID linked to their Commons ID, it will pull that in. If they don't, I think you're going to get a warning at this point. Um, but uh, it's a good idea to just get them to add it so that you can resolve that warning and they'll be set for future submissions. This is my PI, so it was automatically, so PDPI was automatically selected, but you can change their role. You put in their calendar months. And then this is the new part. So there's questions. Is this a new senior key personnel who's contributing measurable effort and they're new to the project since the last reporting period, currently participating on the project but elevated to senior key, will be new to the project for the next reporting period, or currently participating on the project but elevated to senior key during the next reporting period. So if any of those apply, you would say yes. If you say yes to that, they're going to give you the slot to also upload their BioSketch, because when you're adding a new key, you provide both BioSketch and other support. So this is, if you say yes, that's where the BioSketch will go. But she's already established, so I said no. But then there's the question, since she's key, does she have changes in current and pending other support? Yes. So when I hit that, that opens up a slot to attach the other support document that I got from Science CV. There's also a slot, since there's the requirement to provide any contracts for any foreign setups that you have. You also have a slot to attach those. And then last question is their primary affiliation with a foreign organization. So that's the same. But so this looks a little bit different than it used to. And you'll just, click add participant as you have more people to add. You can, if they're already in there, you just click edit and you just add in their calendar months. So this person, I don't have her other support page yet, so I can't put her calendar months because it won't let me save it. So that's one little just quirk of the system that you can't update until you have the other support. But yeah, so that's that piece. Okay, now this is in the way again. This is always in the way. Okay. So, any questions so far?
No.
Okay. All right. So, for who needs to be reported in the all personnel report? So it's the PI and any MPIs and any senior key personnel who are named as key on the NIH Notice of Award. So what we talked about the other day in section 4 of the Notice of Award, if they specify any key personnel there, those people have to report on them no matter what. Otherwise, you only have to report on other senior key personnel if they've worked at least one calendar month in the current budget period. This is a change. Well, that's not a change. The change is that since we upload the other support page within each individual's block in the all personnel report, if we're not including someone because they didn't work one calendar month, then we don't need to collect their other support page. So that is a big change for us. Yes.
For this, that means if someone works for just one calendar month, at least one calendar month, you have to include the person. Is that what you say?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. If they work at least one calendar month
Current budget period.
in the current budget period, yeah, you have to report on them. If you have a senior key who worked less than one calendar month, you do not need to include them on the all personnel report, and you do not need to obtain their other support page. So that has been a really positive change of all of this because it's creating a lot less burden with relation to collecting other support pages. So a lot of senior key, like co-Is, they'll be like 5-7% effort. They're not contributing a ton of time. So that is a huge change, which I am a fan of. And then otherwise you'll report on any other personnel, staff, students, et cetera, who have worked at least one calendar month on the project. And yeah, again, for anyone, PI, named senior key, and senior key who have worked at least one calendar month in the current budget period, you'll need to get their Science CV generated other support pages. And then, like I said, if there's new people coming onto the budget, you indicate that they're new and you provide a copy of both their BioSketch and other support document, which you'll pull from Science CV. So our practice here, as the research administration staff, we are figuring out who we need other support pages from. And then we're going to send a request to the administrator responsible for that key person. If you're unsure who your key personnel are, I always recommend go back to your original proposal or your just in time to see. But we send requests for all of those other support pages to the appropriate internal contact, and then we'll request from any sub institutions. I think it's always good to request your other support pages early so that people have plenty of time to put them, especially now with the start of Science CV and people still getting used to that change. It's good to give people enough time, but not too much time because you don't want them to send it right away and then the signature is really old by the time the RPPR is due. So I usually ask for them. I usually try to give people 2 weeks to turn them around.
Can I think we learned that if it's more than 30 days, sorry, I just want to remember, is it 30 or 60 days?
That's sort of
If they sign, is
that's our rule of thumb. If it's signed within the last 30 days,
it valid?
then it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I recommend that you review other support pages upon receipt to make sure they're accurate. Um, right now, so our procedure now with Science CV is that we send the PIs a Word version of their other support page, and then they're responsible for taking that Word version and putting it into Science CV and then certifying and downloading the form. And for various reasons, we make mistakes, they make mistakes, there might be errors on the other support page when they send it back to you. And so I think it's always a good idea to look at it right when you receive it, request revisions right away so that you don't have any unpleasant surprises down the line when, it's crunch time and you need to get it submitted and you find out something's wrong with the other support. So good to review those early and carefully once you get them. For us, so to put together an all personnel report, so to figure out who has worked at least one calendar month, we are going to run a labor report from our internal system called EBI. And we're going to see how much dollar wise, because that's how it works. We'll see what salary amounts posted for each person month to month. And then we can calculate how many calendar months. And I think Malika showed the calculation when she was talking about other support the other day, but you just figure out what the effort level is by taking their monthly charge on the grant divided by their monthly base, and then calculate an average across the year, and then multiply that by 12 to get their calendar months. So, and you'll also need to get that information from subawards. So anyone who participated for at least one calendar month on the project needs to be reported on. There's also within section D questions about personnel updates. So there used to be a question about if there's any new senior key personnel as a separate question that is now taken care of in the all personnel report table. So that section is a little bit simplified now. There's fewer questions. So the section D2A is asking you if there's going to be any significant changes in effort for PI or senior key personnel. And that is the people who are named on the notice of award. So are they going to reduce their effort by 25% or more? Or if sometimes, which I have not seen this, maybe at all in my career, but sometimes the NIH may say in the notice of award that there's a minimum required effort level for such and such PI or co-investigator. And so if you're going to be reducing by 25% or more or going below your minimum amount required in the NOA, you should include information about that in section D2A. And then in section D2E, it's just a question about the multi-PI leadership plan. Is there a change in the MPI plan for the next budget period? And that one, the options are NA, yes, and no. So if there is no MPI leadership plan, then obviously you would choose NA, but otherwise, yes or no if there's a change. And I believe if you say yes, then you would upload an attachment with information about what your proposed change is. If you say yes to D2A, then a box will open and you can provide details about what you're proposing for the effort change. Okay, so now section G is the special notice of award terms and notice of funding opportunity reporting requirements. That's section G1. So historically, that section has been for special requirements as notated in section 4 of the NIH notice of award. So the NIH notice of award might say like, you need to report on, I have one where it's a clinical trial and they want us to provide a document stating if there were any adverse events. So, and it says, put that in section G1. So your notice of award might specify that you need to do this in section G1. I manage a T32, and all T32s have a requirement that in section G1, you provide information about if any of the trainees use childcare costs. So NIH will provide a small amount of money for childcare. So there are certain awards that have specific things that need to be included in section G1. And so it's important to be mindful of that. Now, since January 25th, there's an additional requirement. So regardless of what your notice of award says, regardless of what type of grant this is, all awards, all RPPRs now have to have certification statements from all PIs and key personnel that certify that they're not involved in a malign foreign talent recruitment program. So this feels silly and redundant because you are certifying that when you complete your other support page in Science CV. Like
Okay.
when you certify your other support page, it says, I certify I'm not involved in a malign foreign talent recruitment program. And it says it at the bottom of your other support page. So we're already attaching that. You have your other support. It's certified. It's in there. It says it. For whatever reason, they want us to do this, take this additional step. So, I have the text here from the most recent RPPR instruction guide, which the link is right here at the bottom. But the NIH RPPR instruction guide says that individuals serving as senior key personnel must certify annually to their participation or non-participation in a malign foreign talent recruitment program by uploading a certification statement in section G1 as a flattened PDF.
So does this also apply to sub-awardees in LMIC? Does that apply to sub-awardees in LMIC?
If you're a key personnel.
Yeah, it does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting it from all key personnel, regardless of their institution. Yeah. So they provide very specific language that they want on this certification statement. And it says, I, insert name, certify that at the time of submission, I am not a party to a malign foreign talent recruitment program. And then it needs to be signed by the certifier. And then the way I've been doing it for mine is I've been sending them a DocuSign request, getting them signed that way. And then you need to flatten it before you upload it into ERA Commons. And then you need to name it with this very specific naming convention. And it's without quotations, MFTRP cert underscore, and then the person's name. So yes, they're very, very deliberate about what.
My flattened PDF.
Sure. So when you download a PDF from a signed PDF from DocuSign, it has like a digital certification related to their signature. So you need to remove that digital certification so that it's not. I'm not a tech person, so I don't know exactly, but you just need to get rid of that. The way I do it is I take the PDF and I print it to PDF again. So like I just print it as a regular plain PDF and that's it. And then that you can upload that. That's a flattened PDF.
Okay, you take the PDF.
Yeah.
You click print.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a flattened PDF.
Yeah.
I want to understand.
I'll show you this. I'll show you what I did. So log into DocuSign. And Okay, so here's one. So I'm just gonna download it. Okay, so here it is. This is for one of the co-Is on this grant that I'm working on an RPPR for. I sent this to him via DocuSign. He signed it. You can see right here, it's got this little blue ribbon. Signatures are valid. So that's sort of my trigger that like, okay, this is not flattened. It's got this. And so I'm just going to go to print. And then from the drop down, there's either Adobe PDF or Microsoft Print to PDF. I'm just going to do that. Print it. And then I just have to save it somewhere. So I'll just save it in my downloads. FTRP cert _ Howard Chang. And that's the naming convention that we need to use. And then I can just go find it. And now when I open it, you'll see that the blue ribbon is gone. Yeah. So that is very unsophisticated. That's how I do it. But yeah, so you'll need one of those for all key personnel, and I'll just show you in the RPPR up here. So on section G1, you can just drag, here's all of mine. Just drag them all. You can drag them all at once. Put them right in there. So yeah, so that's that piece. Okay, and then the rest of section G will probably require some collaboration with your PI. So section G4 is all about the human subjects. Does the project involve human subjects? Is it exempt? Is it a clinical trial? G4B is the inclusion enrollment report data. So that's where you'll have the link to assist. So if you just click this, it's going to take you to assist where you can update your assist record. Do you all do human subjects research?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Are you familiar with assist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So go in there, you have to update your numbers, validate, make sure everything looks good, and then typically you want to have that piece submitted by your signing official before the RPPR so that it pulls in the updated information into the RPPR. Is it a clinical trial that needs to be enrolled in clinicaltrials.gov? So that's that piece. So that part is we're relying on the PI to provide a human subjects education requirement. Are there new personnel in the project who need human subjects training? Stem cells, we don't really do any stem cells, so that's usually just an automatic no. We don't really do any animals either, so that's an automatic no. The performance sites, that's just double checking to make sure that it has all of the correct performance sites. The RPPR, for whatever reason, always seems to have multiple entries for each institution. So it'll have Emory like 3 times, and it'll have our subawardee twice. And so we'll go through and delete all those duplicate entries. And it does it every year. Even if you fix it in the year 2 RPPR, they all come back in year 3. So just double check those, make sure that it's just one entry for each institution. And if you're the prime institution, it will have a little primary bubble next to your institution name in that little table. Same primary, so we're the primary institution here. So you'll want to make sure that if you're deleting entries, don't delete the primary one. But yeah, so just double check that piece. G9, if you add information about any foreign components. If you are involved, then obviously there is a foreign component, so you'll need to make sure to provide information about that. Section G10, the estimated unobligated balance, will there be carryover greater than 25%, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. G11, is there any program income? We pretty much never have program income, so that's always a no for us, but that's just if you're providing some sort of like service, like a core or something, and the grant is funding that core, and then that core is generating revenue. You'll want to report on any program income. And then G12, are there any changes to the budget that are going to impact F&A costs? Okay, so the human subjects piece, you click the human subjects link in G4 and you'll be taken to this human subjects study record in Assist. You'll want to make any necessary edits to the study record. You'll update the number of participants enrolled in the study. You'll add in any dates for completed milestones. Once you've updated everything and it's ready to go, you want to click the validate button in Assist to make sure there are no errors. And then you'll change your status to ready for submission and ask your signing official to submit that part prior to the submission of the RPPR. And then once they submit, then that updated information will come back into the RPPR. For the estimated unobligated balance, the way that we manage this piece, so generally we run a fort. I think you saw those yesterday when Kim was showing PI meetings. Oh, that's today. Okay. So you'll see this later. We have this spreadsheet that we use called Fort. And it helps us to project our expenses for the year. I'll show you one. Get a sense of what it looks like. But at the time of a progress report, I will do a Fort projection. Yeah, here we go. So okay. So this is just my summary tab, but this is the sheet we use where basically the white columns are all of our actuals. So this is what is actually posted to the award in the current budget period. And then the yellows are what's projected. And so I'll just go through and I'll run a projection one more time. And we do this regularly. So every 2 months, we're expected to meet with our PIs and walk through these projections to make sure that, they know what their balances are. We know what they're expecting, and we all have a good sense of, how much money there is. And but I'll run one at the progress report stage to get a sense of if we're going to have 25% or more. So I'll go through all the personnel, double check, make sure I have them all projected out appropriately through the end of the budget period. And then any non-personnel expenses I will include in the non-personnel section. And that often requires some collaboration with the PI to figure out, we're not privy to, timing and what they're expecting. Things change on the non-personnel side a lot. And so requires some input from the PI, but putting that together and making sure that this is a solid, accurate projection, as good as we can get. It's hard, things change, but we got to do our best. And then I just take the projected balance, which right now this is projecting to have a balance of about 175K. And I just divide that by the approved award amount, which I'll talk about in a second. And then I get my percentage. So this one is projected to have 24.91%. So we can say, no, we will not have 25%, which is generally our goal, just to get below that 25% threshold within reason. And so when you're calculating that threshold, your denominator, your approved budget per the NIH is your current year award plus any approved carryover from prior years. And so if you have an award where carryover is restricted, then it's very easy, right? You know what your approved carryover is because you have sent a request to the NIH and they have sent you a notice of award which approves that carryover. So that's very easy to calculate. But if it's an award that has automatic carryover, then you're going to have to go back to the end of the prior year to figure out what carryover you had and add that to your current year budget. So one thing that has tripped people up is it's not your total award to date. So it's not, if you're in year 2, it's not year 1 plus year 2. That's not your denominator. It is year two plus any approved carryover from year one.
Yeah.
So that has caused issues in the past where there was a misinterpretation of what the denominator was. And we said, no, we're not going to have more than 25% because we thought it was our total budget to date. And the NIH looked at it and said, what are you talking about? You have way more than 25%. And so we had to clarify, oh, oops, that's our mistake. So it's really critical you know which denominator you're working with, so that you can provide them with an accurate estimate. So, oh, and sorry, when to go back, just you do need to know how much carryover your subawards are planning to have, because if they leave money unspent, that adds to your projected unspent balance. So it's important to get that information from your subs as well. And then if more than 25% carryover is anticipated, you'll need to enter the estimated amount and a plan for how you're going to spend that money. And then, if applicable, section H is the budget. So if you're not sure, just click section H and it will tell you if a budget is required. But like I said, SNAP award, and those are generally due on the 15th of the month. No budget required. Non-SNAP, generally due on the 1st, budget is required. You'll need a budget for your institution, for any subs, and you'll need the budget justifications. And it'll look just like the forms that you fill out in Assist when you're putting together an application. So the detailed budget where you put in personnel and travel and equipment and supplies and all that stuff. It's the same exact form that it's just in the ERA Commons module. So just some tips for updating the budget. So you'll want to refer back to the most recent notice of award for your target. So we looked at that the other day. So it'll have on the notice of award, it will show you your current year award and then future year awards. So you're just going to want to use that next year expected amount as your budget target. And I would always recommend that if you're submitting like a budget to NIH, hit that target exactly, because you don't want to go under and then NIH is like, oh, they don't need all the money, we'll just give them less. Hit the target exactly, and you can't go over. So yes, so you refer back to that when you're figuring out what your total is for the year. And then we always refer back to the original proposal budget for the upcoming year. Update it to include current salaries and fringe rates, etc. I usually just add in all of the non-personnel as was originally proposed, but for discussion with the PI, because I don't know what has changed. And so sometimes lots of things have changed and we make a lot of edits, and sometimes they're like, yep, that looks good. And then you need to make adjustments to get within your limit. So maybe somehow you're under budget, not usually, but maybe you are. So then you can increase effort or add in travel or whatever the case may be. That's, up to the PI. The more common scenario is that you are over budget, and then you need to figure out how to cut things to make it all work. Again, if the budget is required, you're going to need to also reach out to sub-awardees to get their updated budget, which you will also need to input into. Yeah, to make dates. And then you'll need a budget justification for your budget and your institution and for some. Okay, so done it all. You've done all those administrative pieces. Your PI has done all their science pieces. Assist is good to go. You're ready. So the first thing you want to do is you want to review that RPPR, make sure it looks good. So you can check the RPPR for errors. And to do that, you go to the RPPR menu. And in the three dot ellipsis next to the award number, you click that and you click check for errors. And then that's going to give you a nice list of what your errors are. This RPPR is not ready, so I'm not surprised that there are errors. But anything in the red, which are errors, has to be resolved. You cannot submit an RPPR with an error. Anything in the yellow is a warning. you need to review the warning. Sometimes the warning is fine and you can disregard it. Other times you will want to resolve it because something's not right with your RPPR. So address all the errors, review warnings, and address those that are needed to be addressed. And then if you've done that and you do another error check and it comes back and it says, this RPPR has no errors, or it says, this is your warning, but you know that warning's fine, it should be submitted with it, then you can download a PDF version of the RPPR. To do that, again, ellipsis, view RPPR as PDF, and then it'll print out a nice, beautiful compiled PDF of the RPPR. And then I typically will send that to the PI and say, hey, here it is. Is this good? Are you happy with it? And if they come back and they say, yeah, it looks great, I'm happy, then we can move forward with requesting a final review and submission of the RPPR.
So in your system, who does the final review?
So there are a lot of reviewers. So I don't know if Tammy and Jamila talked about this on Tuesday, but when we submit a proposal in Epics, it first goes to all of the key personnel. They all approve. Then it goes to like their department chairs. Then their department chairs all approve. Then it goes to the school level, and that's us in the ROAR. And so there will be one person on our review team who will review the RPPR to make sure everything looks good. And this is a pre-screen. We try to catch as many errors as we possibly can, as many issues, so that there's less for OSP to find once it gets to OSP. We don't find everything because there's always something, but we try our best to find just about everything so that OSP has less of a lift. And so we'll review. If we think it looks good, then we approve. Then it goes to OSP, and then OSP does a final review. They might send some comments that need to be fixed, and then once everyone's happy, then OSP will submit it. So just some common errors and warnings in my experience. I'd say the most common one is that publications are. That's a warning. So I'm not super, I don't intimately know the rules around publications, but as I understand it, once you have a publication accepted, it needs to be publicly available. And so if it's not, then you're out of compliance with this policy, and you need to get it into compliance as soon as possible. That being said, you may not be able to get it in compliance before the due date of your RPPR. And so our standard policy is that we're still going to submit the RPPR on time with the out of compliance publication. And the PI just needs to continue to work as quickly as possible to resolve the issue. And so ideally, we'll resolve it before the NIH even realizes that we have an out of compliance publication. But just we'll still go ahead and submit, but make sure you're working as hard as you can to get it into compliance as soon as possible. Because they will not give you a notice of award for the next year with out of compliance publications. Good morning.
Morning.
Another one is that this is an error, so you won't be able to submit with this. Commons profile is incomplete for one or more of the individuals listed on the all personnel report. This usually comes up when we have like a postdoc or a student on an award, and we've created a Commons ID for them because we're required to, and they haven't even logged in and completed their profile, and so we have to follow up with that person to get them to log in and complete their profile, and that will clear that error. So that just requires some follow up with whichever people are out of don't have their profiles completed, and that usually can be resolved quickly as long as the person is responsive. But so I think it's good practice to set up ERA Commons IDs for new individuals as soon as you can, so that you have plenty of time to make sure that they complete their profile. Another warning, which again, since it's a warning, you can submit with this. updates to inclusion enrollment reports have not been made for study X. So in that case, you're going to want to check with the PI to see if updates are needed. If yes, they need to go into assist, make their updates, mark it ready for submission, and then we need to get OSP to submit it before we submit the RPPR. If they say, no, I don't have any updates, you can just disregard the warning. That's fine. The warning won't stop you from submitting the RPPR. And then another warning related to the human subjects is the following studies have some updated information that have not yet been submitted to NIH. So that means you as the PI went in, updated things in assist, but OSP hasn't submitted it yet. So you want to make sure if it's you reach out to the PI, make sure it's updated, it's ready for submission. They say yes, then you follow up with OSP to get them to submit it prior to submitting the RPPR. Okay, so then everything's good. You've cleared all your errors. You've cleared all your warnings, or the warnings that remain are okay. The PI needs to route the RPPR to the signing official so that they can submit it. So that's another thing which I can show you what that looks like. Because I have one in my queue right now. So this one is ready to go. I'm just waiting on one thing, but the PI routed it to me so that when it's ready, I can send it to OSP. So it's with me right now, so I can now route it. So I just click the 3 dots and then I can click route to next reviewer, and then I can do that. And then I just find my OSP person from the drop down. I hit route to next reviewer, and then it'll go to her. I'll also probably send her a courtesy email to let her know it's ready for review. But yeah, so that's that's routing it, and then they'll have it, and then they should complete their review, and then hopefully submit in a timely manner, and then you're done. But you're not, because you'll get the PI and the signing official will get a system generated email confirming the submission of the RPPR when submitted. But so sometimes you submit your RPPR and you think, great, I'm done, everything's great, or we'll just wait for our notice of award. And then the NIH comes back and says, hey, like, we have questions. So they will request a PRAM. PRAM stands for Progress Report Additional Materials. So I haven't had a ton of experience with PRAMs, but I believe they'll email your signing official to say, hey, what's going on here? Your PI is supposed to be 20%, but they only marked 10% on the all personnel report. Like, that's a significant reduction. You should have had prior approval. Like, what happened? Or you say that you're going to have less than 25%, but you currently have $1 million unspent. Like, how are you possibly going to, get down to 25%? Like, so they might send you something of that nature to request clarification. And so we will complete a PRAM to address their questions. So to complete the PRAM, you'll prepare the materials, whatever the response. Typically, just will write up a Word document explaining what happened, turn it into a PDF. It'll get uploaded into ERA Commons by going to the status screen in Commons. I don't think I have any PRAMs, but just here on the status screen, and it'll look different for you as a PI. This is what it looks like for me. But if I just pull up on the status screen.
Quick question, for 9:30 call, 10 o'clock? No?
Kim just can't move them, and I haven't gotten an answer from her yet as to what happened or what's going, so I'm assuming we're pivoting.
Okay, cool.
As
we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know, I'm waiting to hear back from her, but I'm assuming she got pulled into
Yeah,
something, or the PI is canceled, it could have been the PI.
Okay, sounds like.
So they're afternoons,
Okay.
starting at 1.
Go.
Tammy's on her way though, I think we can pivot to award management, maybe around 10.
We're good, yeah, I know I'm going into a call.
I just want to make sure, because I sent, Kamar those exact links, but one of my questions was, were we just going to show the videos, like show it here and record it through like the Zoom that's playing?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's fine. So, I'll let him know, just, he hasn't joined this morning.
Oh, yes.
No, but I'll just let him know that we just at least jump into the Zoom, that way we can tell, update him.
Yeah, if we have if we use the Zoom on this one, okay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Perfect.
yeah,
Thank you both.
I'll keep you posted
Yep.
when she gets here.
So in comments on the status screen, you just hit the three dots next to the award ID. If you had a pram, there would be a pram option here. Actually, I can see how. Maybe not. Okay, it would show up there if you had one. So that's where you would go. You would click Pram, then you would upload whatever file you've prepared, and then you would notify your signing official, and they would go ahead and submit for you. So most common Pram scenario, I think, is the public access Pram. So if you submit an RPPR with a publication that is out of compliance, you will, and I think it's an automatic process. The NIH doesn't even do anything. It just automatically creates a public access Pram option in the status screen. I think you get an auto-generated email that says, hey, you submitted, like, please provide a report showing your publication in compliance. And so, like I said, you need to work to get your publication into compliance as soon as possible. Once you're in compliance, you can generate a report from MyNCPI, which shows the publication in compliance. And then you would just upload that report into Commons via the public access Pram option. The signing official submits, and then you should be good to go. Other examples, like I mentioned, perhaps you are saying you're not going to have a 25% balance, but it looks like you have way more than 25%. Might need to clarify that. And in those scenarios, a lot of times it's because of late invoicing. So say you have a sub and they have a large budget, but they have not invoiced you in 8 months, like then you're expecting them to invoice you by the end of the budget period, but they just haven't yet. And so it's artificially inflating your balance. So usually that's what we would say. We would say, we are expecting our budget balance to be X. We are currently awaiting an invoice from sub-awardee, which will bring our balance down, something along those lines. Clarification on the effort commitments for key personnel. So if someone who is named as key is too low on the all personnel report, then you're going to need to clarify what's going on there. And I think in most situations, I think part of the issue is that the all personnel report rounds, right? So like if they're 20% committed and you're charging them at 15.5%, like that might still look like 15 because either one is 1.8 calendar months. And so they might think that's too much of a reduction. You put 1.8 when in reality it's, 1.84 or whatever. And so you just have to clarify with them like, oh, it's just rounding, like they were actually 1.84. And then they'll say, okay, great. Or if they have a question about your budget, like whatever the case may be. Those are some of the common Pram scenarios. Malika, I don't have a ton of experience with Prams. Do you?
No,
Yeah.
Rare.
Yeah.
So it is I would say common, but not as often. You're not gonna get a pram as often as a JIT.
Yeah, no.
But they're two different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use for it is two different things. If you have a progress report where there are questions, obviously, that's where you'll get the pram. But
Yeah.
most people spend a lot of time preparing for
Yeah.
progress reports and usually provide the information that's needed.
Yeah. So hopefully you won't get a lot of those. And then I wanted to share this helpful resource, which is the ERA Commons User Guide. And it just has information about everything, about navigating everything in Commons. So like if you have a question about how to navigate the RPPR. There's a whole section about the RPPR module, accessing it, managing it, routing it, recalling it. So editing inclusion and enrollment data. If you're having trouble with the assist record, there's information here. There's information about PRAM. So if you have questions about how to access a PRAM or what to do with a PRAM or how to submit a PRAM, that's all here. Yeah, this is a wealth of information. So if you're having issues navigating ERA Commons, then I'd recommend referencing this document. And then I just wanted to share, when we have an RPPR that's assigned to us, we'll usually send the PI these instructions for how to initiate the RPPR and how to delegate access to the RPPR to your research administrator. So I just wanted to share this document with you so that you have it as a reference. And this is all taken from that ERA Commons guide. So all this information is in here as well, but just a quick overview of how to initiate and how to delegate access to someone else in an RPPR. So that's my entire presentation. Do you have any questions?
No, the questions I asked when
Yeah.
you had given me a lecture, I think this was clear.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're a lot of work, so it's good to always start thinking about them early. But the RPPR system is pretty good. So, yeah, Malika, do you have anything to add about RPPRs?
I'm pretty sure you.
All right, I tried. All right.